Okay, so let's talk about what happens when cell division goes off the rails, because that's basically what cancer is. Normally, the cell cycle is controlled by a mix of internal and external signals that are either telling the cell to divide or to stop dividing. But when the control breaks down, the result can be uncontrolled cell reproduction, and that is exactly what we see in cancer. So, cancer cells are basically cells that refuse to stop dividing, and they're ignoring all the usual checks and balances that keep things in line. So, cancer develops gradually, often through a series of mutations. It usually starts with one cell that mutates in a way that allows for it to divide more often than it should. As it keeps dividing, more mutations can accumulate. Eventually, one of those cells is going to gain the ability to start forming a tumor, which is just a mass of abnormal cells. So, at first, that tumor might be harmless and stay in place, and this is what's called cancer in situ. But if the cancer cells continue mutating, they can start producing special enzymes like proteinases that allow them to break down surrounding tissues. From there, they might be able to enter the bloodstream or the lymphatic system and then travel to other parts of the body. When this happens, it's called metastasis, and it's one of the reasons that cancer can be so dangerous. So the cells not only grow out of control, but they spread and start building new tumors elsewhere. Now, from a genetic standpoint, cancer is often caused by mutations in specific genes that regulate the cell cycle. So, two of the major players are going to be proto-oncogenes and tumor suppressor genes. So, proto-oncogenes are like the gas pedal. They code for proteins that push the cell forward in the cycle and prevent it from dying. When these genes mutate, they turn into oncogenes, which are like a gas pedal that's stuck down. On the flip side, we have tumor suppressor genes, which are acting like the brakes. They tell the cell cycle to slow down, to stop, or even to self-destruct if something goes wrong. So when tumor suppressor genes mutate, the brakes are going to fail, and the cell is going to lose its ability to stop dividing or undergo apoptosis, which is the cell's, again, built-in programmed cell death. So some of the well-known genes that are associated with cancer include BRCA1 and BRCA2, which are linked to breast and ovarian cancers. There's also the RB gene, which is associated with eye cancer, retinoblastoma, and the RET gene, which is linked to thyroid cancer. But cancer cells don't just stop at mutating a couple genes. They often develop chromosomal abnormalities too, like when two pieces of DNA are lost or duplicated or are rearranged. So a common example is a translocation, and that's where a chunk of chromosome breaks off and attaches to another. Also, normal cells have something called the telomeres. These are the protective caps at the end of chromosomes that are going to shorten every time a cell divides. So in cancer cells, those telomeres don't shorten, which is one of the reasons why cancer cells can divide endlessly. So, what makes a cancer cell different from a normal cell? Well, for starters, cancer cells lack differentiation. So, they don't look or act like the cells they came from, and they definitely don't contribute to normal tissue function. They often have abnormal nuclei with irregular shapes and the wrong number of chromosomes. They also don't respond to normal signals that tell the cell to stop dividing, and they ignore apoptosis. So, instead of dying when they're supposed to, they just keep going. And they can form these tumors, travel to other parts of the body if they metastasize, and they can even create their own blood supply through a process called angiogenesis, which is basically hijacking our body's blood vessels to feed the tumor cells themselves. So some tumors are benign, meaning they're contained and not spreading, but once a tumor becomes malignant, it's invasive and can spread throughout the body. So when it comes to treatment, the main goal is either to remove the tumor or stop the cancer cells from dividing. So this is where radiation and chemotherapy come in. These treatments are designed to target rapidly dividing cells, which includes cancer cells, but unfortunately they can also affect healthy cells that divide quickly. So like our hair follicles or cells in our digestive tract, which is why a lot of the side effects are hair loss and nausea and why those are common. Hormone therapy is another option, especially for hormone-sensitive cancers like some types of breast cancer and prostate cancer. And this therapy is going to block hormones that signal cells to keep growing. So prevention is a big part when we're talking about cancer. So there are some protective behaviors that can significantly reduce your risk. So for example, not smoking is huge. Tobacco is responsible for roughly 30% of all cancer deaths. Other things like limiting sun exposure, using sunscreen can also help prevent skin cancers, especially melanomas, which are the most dangerous type. Drinking alcohol in moderation is also important, as heavy drinking is linked to several forms of cancer. Then there's diet. So maintaining a healthy body weight, eating plenty of foods rich in vitamins A and C, avoiding heavily salt-cured or pickled foods can all help lower your risk. Foods from the cabbage family, so like broccoli, cauliflower, kale, and Brussels sprouts, these are especially helpful because they contain natural compounds that can help fight cancer development. So in short, cancer is a really complex disease. There's courses just covering all of its complexity. This is just an introduction to biology course, so we're just briefly touching on it. But at its core, what it is it's the breakdown in the cell cycle's control system. And it starts with one cell that's gone out of control without any usual safety checks and can grow into something that spreads and disrupts your entire body. So by understanding how the normal cell cycle works, how it goes wrong, we're better able to equip ourselves to recognize, treat, and to prevent cancer.